Hola amigos, coming up in this episode. So we're in the town of Arequipa in the southern Peruvian Andes, and my plan is to ride south to Tacna and the Peruvian-Chilean border. Well, in the end I didn't even make half the distance, but I did see about twice as many things as I expected to see. It began with me actually innocently causing an accident, I think, and then I parted ways with Angelo, who had to ride back to Cusco, and it just was the open desert, the zona Chala as they call it in Spanish, the coastal desert. Although I didn't see much of the coast, we kept away from that. And funnily enough, it's kind of like being on the ocean in a boat. When you do see something, it really stands out. And one really strange thing that happened was I actually smelled a town long before I saw it.
So the first thing we had to do was manoeuvre Atwaki out of the hotel hallway. Then, as she's now clocked up over 1,000 kilometres on her odometer, time to give her an oil change. Nothing but the best synthetic for old Atwaki. Then Angelo repeated some words of advice he'd given me before about this general area.
Len, te doy un consejo, que tienes que tener mucho cuidado ahora en esta ruta que vas a seguir. En los semáforos hay muchos rateros. Cuando vas a parar a comprar un agua mineral o en el puesto de gasolina, tienes que tener mucho cuidado. Los rateros te ven ahí unos 5 o 10 segundos parado, te pueden sacar tu cámara a bordo, tu GPS o quién sabe, más cosas.
So here's Atwaki all ready to roll, but as you can imagine, after hearing that bit of advice, I decided not to have my camera out, and I didn't start recording until I was way out of town in the desert. But this is what happened. We'd only gone a couple of blocks down one of the main streets in Arequipa, and there was a manhole cover that was just, water was just gushing out of it. And it looked dirty and muddy. I don't know if it was wastewater, whether it was sewage water, but anyway, I just followed Angelo and just kept an eye on how deep he was going, and it was really touch and go. It was really, really deep. And it went over my boots at one point and got into my, like inside the boot, inside my socks and everything. I thought nothing of it. We kept going, you know, it was only for a little bit like that. We turned right, we went over a bridge, and we got stuck in a traffic jam. And it was just really slow going. It was all muddy after recent rain and stuff. And there was a big truck trying to come in from the left. And he was just forcing his way in at a right angle. And the truck couldn't go anywhere because it was just log jam. And we saw a gap, the cars moved ahead. So Angelo went forward, I followed him through. And I saw the guy pull out in my rear vision mirror. And then I heard an almighty bang, crash. You know, I looked back and he T-boned a car that was behind me. Now, the only thing I can think of how he didn't see that car was that he was looking at my bike, which was all colourful bags, looks like Mary Poppins and her balloons, it was so overloaded. How could he go straight into a car? That's the only reason. So I think I innocently caused that accident, but we didn't stop, we just kept going because really, technically, it wasn't my fault at all. Then we arrived at a gas station, more or less on the edge of the built-up area. We filled up with gas, and Angelo shook my hand and said, "Amigo, cuídate," which means be careful, buddy. And I didn't photograph it or anything, but he said I could make it to Tacna, but don't rush it, just take it easy, which is good advice. I saw him ride off, you know, and I thought, this is it. The trip is really going to begin now. I'm on my own. I was 50 years old. I think Angelo's about 30 something, maybe even 28, something like that. And the big adventure began. And looking back, that was a watershed moment in my life, but you won't know until you see all the future episodes why it was. I thought I was in for maybe 8 or 9 months of adventure. It ended up being a lot more. But anyway, this is what happened on day 4, which is the first day I rode by myself, and that was the way it was going to be for the rest of the trip.
So I didn't turn my camera on until I was well out of town, going up a road, going through this road cutting. Note the double yellow lines, and this camioneta overloaded with sacks of potatoes overtakes me, and see that little skinny dog beside the road? The scenery is certainly different to that around Cusco. Those dark hills, it looks like snow has settled on them, but it's actually white sand blown up there by the wind. That's a billboard for the local brand of Arequipa beer, and it says, "Come back soon." Roadside signs and billboards, they break the monotony, especially on a road like this. And I've read there is a thing called highway hypnosis, where drivers fall into a trance by the monotony and the warmth of the cabin and everything, but billboards help keep them alert and stop that from happening. Those rocks there look almost orange in colour. I know there's a lot of iron ore and copper in southern Peru. The rocks around here look so jagged. I'm not a geologist, but I'm guessing it's because there's so little rain, there's so little erosion. Having said that, it looks like it's going to rain in a few minutes. Well, those clouds disappeared pretty quick, and now look at it, hot and sunny. The road here is so straight as an arrow. It felt like I was in the middle of nowhere. Then I saw a sign that said Cerro Cumbre, so I stopped and just checked that all my bags were tied on properly. But man, it was windy. Check out those streamers on the bike. It was windy, alright. This road was steadily descending, and all of a sudden we left the plain and came to a winding rocky outcrop which was perforated by a couple of tunnels. Pepsi tunnels is what it said as you went through them. They were only short tunnels, but I used to work in tunnelling and mining, and depending on the hardness of the rock, it's a very expensive way to make a road or a shortcut. It's usually quicker to go around the obstacle or over it, unless it's absolutely necessary. But here are two tunnels right in the middle of the desert. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Blinded by the light. Well, here's a little town, I think it's called El Fiscal. Look at that, looks like a circus on the left. And it's an agricultural town by the looks of it. Lives off irrigation from one of the few rivers that cut through the desert here. You can tell we're in hotter weather now. Look at the clothes people are wearing. The tank on my bike only holds 11 litres, and one of the things Angelo said is, once you've gone 100 kilometres, start looking for gasoline and don't drive past one without filling up again. In these remote areas, there might be a gas station at the next town, but it might have run out of gas or have no gas, and you'll wish you'd bought it at the one before. So I'm not taking any chances. I'm going to pull in here and buy some gasoline. That sign says danger, fog zone. That one says the same thing. That one says don't overtake, but look how flat it is. So that sign says we are leaving the Arequipa region and entering the Moquegua region. Then I started seeing something strange along this godforsaken flat pampa, they call it. There were lines of rocks perfectly straight beside the road. So I pulled over to have a closer look. They look to be professionally surveyed, and I can only guess there's going to be some building going on here in the future, but it seems to be in the middle of nowhere. Maybe there's going to be an irrigation project here, or a mine, or a solar farm. That could be the only explanation I could give for building something here. You see that sign on the hill? It says, Yo soy claro, y tú? That's a play on words. What they're actually saying is, I am clear, and what about you? Trying to sell cell phone services. Now that cell phone, I didn't know, but just around the corner, I was coming into the town of Moquegua, and I could smell it before I saw it, because this fruity aroma, it was almost overpowering. It's like someone opened a bag of raisins or sultanas right under your nose. But it was nice. It was okay. I guess it's because this is another irrigation area. They've got a river and they pump it out and they use it to grow fruit and sun-dried fruit. I guess that's where the smell's coming from. That sign says, Welcome to Moquegua, land of sun and friendship. Well, the sun's hiding today, so I hope there's plenty of friendship to make up for it. That sign says, Don't bring uncertified fruit. I can only guess that's because this is a pest-free valley. No fruit fly or grubs or anything like that. We're definitely in a country town. Look at those horses there. It was getting late and it was actually starting to spit raindrops, so I decided to call it a day after I saw a sign that said Hotel Mirador. And I just followed the signs up this winding hill. Hotel Mirador means like hotel with a view or lookout hotel. And then I thought, well, that'd be good. Maybe I can do a gigapan panorama if it's got a nice view. I just hope this rain holds off. That sign says Vista Alegre, which probably in this context means cheerful outlook or nice view. But when I finally arrived at that hotel, it had a swimming pool, it had a parking lot, it was a little bit more luxurious than I was anticipating, but I thought, what the heck? It's the first night I'm going to be on my own in a strange town, I'll just fork out the money. They did give me this voucher for a free Peruvian pisco sour drink, and it seems someone didn't do their English spell checking correctly. Well, I wasn't disappointed with the view. Look at that. You could even watch a game of football in the local stadium from this room. Now that security wall tells you something. It's made of adobe brick with pebbles and broken glass bottles on the top of it. You know, the sun sets quickly in the tropics, so I wasted no time setting up for a simultaneous time-lapse and gigapan. Time-lapse with my little Rico and gigapan with my DSLR Pentax. Both of them turned out pretty good, actually. Then I felt so tired I fell asleep, had a bit of an afternoon siesta, and when I woke up I took a nighttime gigapan, which also turned out okay, but it was so late that when I went down to the hotel restaurant it was closed. So this was my luxurious dinner on my first day on the road by myself.
Coming up in the next episode...
The Ruta del Pisco. That sounds very rude to an Australian. Wow, look at that hill on the left. Chalk and cheese, if ever there was.
Gringo Loco asks,
hit the subscribe button.
please subscribe.